Hello and welcome to the video. My name is Brandon. I'm a professional poker player and I'm here to give you a tried and tested approach for how to have the best year you possibly can for poker, whatever that means for you. The first thing to acknowledge, poker is an extremely mentally trying game. You're going to suffer. Eventually, you're going to go for a downswing. If you're going to play professionally, if you're going to play a lot in a year, you're going to get bad beats, you're going to get bad variance, you're going to go through it all. There's going to be times where you think, why do I play this stupid game? There's going to be times where you're jealous of other people because they keep winning. There's going to be times where maybe the opposite happens to you. Maybe you win and it gets to your head and you start to think, oh, I'm the best, I'm crushing everyone, and then you take a back seat on studying and trying to improve, and maybe that has a negative impact instead. I'm here to tell you at least what my approach is to having the best year with poker and what I think can work for you as well. So I think one of the most important things with approaching a year and how you want to have the best year possible is not to have a yearly resolution, not to say I'm going to do 500 hours of study in a year, or I'm going to do 1,000,000 hands of poker, whatever this crazy outlandish goal is. Instead of that, break things down as small as you possibly can and make sure you always have a weekly check-in. Every Monday, plan out at least an hour where you just reflect on the last week. Where did I not do what I set out to do? Compare that to your goals. You can have numerical goals if you want, but just make sure you've got a new entry point. So if you have a bad week, if you have a bad few days, this is your time to start again, to refresh. It's not a bad year, it's only a bad week at most. The most important thing with poker is just having a process that you can trust. That means that you know that you are going to have the best trajectory, you're going to have the best potential, and that's the only thing in our control. You might want to win 1,000,000 this year, and you might play the stakes where it's possible with your win rate, but you still might not. And for me, that is just ticking boxes. So my theme of this year is I want to get better, I want to stay sane, and I want to be as happy as I possibly can be. That is my list of priorities. So you need to know what the priority is for you. It might be playing more poker, because for a lot of people, they just don't get their hands in. They don't have the discipline yet to put in the amount of time that is needed to overcome variance. If you want to have a volume goal, then that might make sense to you. I personally don't have that, but a study goal I think makes sense to anyone and everyone that plays poker, because at the worst case scenario, you're going to get a little bit better at poker, which is going to increase your win rate, which is going to increase your financial situation. If you consider yourself a professional, then you have to have a diligent approach. You have to know, how am I going to study poker this week? What am I going to do? How many hours am I going to put in to know that I am on that good trajectory, that I am actually getting better at this game? There's obviously heaps of ways you can study poker. Find the ones that work for you, that you actually enjoy. For me, that is, I like to use Pads' poker course. Shout out to Pads, he's very good at poker. I like listening to the way he thinks. I think it helps me get better at the game. So on a day, if I assign myself, say 3 hours of poker study, maybe 5 days a week, 3 hours a day, I'm going to study poker. Maybe you want to study less and play more, whatever the balance is for you. In those 3 hours, I might say, okay, hour 1, I'm going to watch an hour of Pads' content. I'm going to take notes, take a break. Hour 2, I'm going to use GTO Wizard. I'm going to practice spots. Using GTO Wizard, there's plenty of solvers out there that can do similar things, but you can just iron out a very specific spot. So I can say, okay, 40 big blinds under the gun versus the button. I open, they call. How do I play this spot? How much should I see bet out of position? What bet sizing should I choose? What flop textures do I want to bet more than other textures? Once I know that this is a spot I want to study, I can just practice over and over and over again, different hands, different textures, different opponent responses, and I'm just obviously going to get better and better through exposure. And that's not to say you should play exactly like the solver plays, but if I study this spot and I see, okay, it says I should see bet 30% of the time here, I'm not going to recreate that perfectly because I'm not a robot. But if I look at, okay, when I see bet, this is how my opponent is supposed to respond, and I think that instead of raising this percentage, they're raising half of that amount. So now suddenly I know the solver bets this much when they respond with this much aggressiveness, but they're actually half as aggressive as they should be. So I can then figure out, how can I better exploit my opponents who I know are not meeting these check raise frequencies that they are supposed to in GTO, and I can then gain even more EV in this spot by responding with more aggressiveness myself. For example, maybe playing more aggressively with bluffs, maybe playing more aggressively with your value because they're not going to play as aggressively themselves. It's always just a learning curve and comparing it to the population. The other way I study is just by reviewing hand history. So every time you play, you should be just writing down hands. You're never 100% sure how to play every spot you play in a given day, or at least if you are, then I guess you don't need to study and you're already perfect. But whenever you're playing, just write down the hand, write down the actions, write down everything that happened from your hand, from your position, from the big blinds, from how many players in the hand, from all the actions, all the streets, and just review it. Find a way to review it, whether it's for a solver, whether it's for a coach, whether it's with friends, whatever it is, find a way to go through that hand. And know that coming out of studying it, you're going to go from someone who was unsure how to play that spot to someone who now is good at playing this spot, or at least improved from last time. So that's a tangible bit of evidence that you're improving at the game. So going to the mental side of things, as a poker player, you need mental game practices, because it's just the definition of insanity. It's mental masochism to go through this game, especially as a tournament poker player, because most of the time you lose. You're going to have losing months, you might have losing 2 months, you might even have a losing year. If you're going to go through with that, one, you need very good bankroll management, because 300 buy-in downswings do happen. They really do. I've seen it happen to all caliber of players. If you're not mentally prepared for that, it's going to really affect you. So what I would recommend is every single day, whatever helps bring you a state of peace of mind, make sure you are being diligent with those processes and doing them every single day. So for me, that's meditation, that's journaling, that is listening to the works of someone like Alan Watts, someone like Eckhart Tolle. I find that hearing them speak helps me get into a more peaceful state of mind. For some people, it might be breath work, it might be cold showers. I think going to the gym can be very helpful. Maybe taking drugs, do some DMT.
On your bike.
Whatever it is for you that gets you into that peaceful state of mind, if it's good for you, then it should be a habit. Same in the opposite. So if you plan on playing a session on a Sunday and you're going out on Saturday night and drinking, or you're staying up till 5 a.m, waking up late, starting sluggish, starting not in the best state of mind you can be in, then obviously that's going to have the opposite effect. Mitigating the things that you know are not helping you is just as important as implementing the things that do help you. It's a really hard game mentally. You need to do as much as you can. You need to be on top of it. And like I said, every Monday, look back at the week and think, what did I do that served me? What did I do that did not serve me? How can I go through this week again at this new starting point, as today's Monday, and make my week better? Make it so I'm having that good trajectory, and then you know you can trust the process. The 4 pillars for me are: I need to be productive, so I need to know that I'm using time to better myself. I need to be organized, because that's a way to be as efficiently productive as you can. So now I use tons of spreadsheets. After everything you do, you want to stay on top of yourself. Have a spreadsheet for reviewing your session, have a spreadsheet for where you put your hands, have a spreadsheet for your poker game plan, have a spreadsheet for your weekly schedule, have a spreadsheet for your yearly schedule, so everything is in its place and you don't need to waste mental energy trying to organize things in the moment. Organize as many things in advance as early as possible as you can. I need to be creative. This video is part of that outlet. For me, it's very important to actually use some creativity, because I think otherwise it will end up going too much towards the poker, and being creative in poker is good to an extent, but being very creative poker can actually be harming and damaging, can be victim of fancy play syndrome, and you can do all of these outlandish crazy things which you just don't need to do to be a winning player at the game. And the last one is balance. This just applies to everything. Balance in playing. If you play too much, you're going to get burnt out, you're going to play worse, you're going to get frustrated. Balance in studying. If you're not studying enough, then can you really call yourself a professional? If you're not playing enough, can you really call yourself a professional? And balanced in your identity, because if all you are is poker, if you do nothing but play poker, sleep, breathe, eat poker, everything you do is oriented around poker, at least from my experience, the times that I've been most firmly identified with just being a poker player, that's the times that I've suffered the most. Because when I'm failing, well, I say failing, when I'm on a downswing, which is inevitable, and all I am is a poker player, it's just going to hurt that much more. So at least if I'm going on holiday, if I'm going out with friends, if I'm having hobbies that aren't poker, if I'm doing sports, if I'm creating music, whatever it is, I'm not just poker. I'm more than that. And when poker's not going well, I have other areas to go to kind of mentally reset and recover. And that is crucial in this game. That's the main thing I want to hit home is, if you play poker, you will suffer. It is inevitable. You're going to go through bad variants. It's going to be really difficult. You need to be there for when you get the good variants. And to get there, you have to be extremely tenacious. And you can only build up this resilience to the bad variants you get if you put in all of these processes. And you know you have a process you can trust. You know you have all of these boxes that you're ticking every day, every week. And if I had to summarize this video, the most important thing is have mental practices, be diligent with yourself, decide every week what your input is going to be. Have a weekly entry point to reset your schedule. If you have a bad week, it's fine, because next week is going to be better. Make sure you always put in time to your mental game. If you don't think that's important, maybe you haven't had the bad variants enough yet, but eventually it will get on top of you if you play this game for long enough. If you call yourself a professional, there will be a time where it gets on top of you. Make sure you really practice bankroll management. This game is so much more difficult when you're not bankrolling appropriately, because then the downswing is just going to hurt that much more, especially when it starts to bring you financial pressure, and then it's going to leak into your game. It's going to make you play worse, it's going to make you stressed, it's going to make you unhappy, and it's just a negative spiral that you don't need to go on if you just bankroll appropriately. And make sure you're studying. Make sure you are putting in, even if it's 1 hour a day, even if it's half an hour a day, 5 days a week, put into your schedule time that you are studying poker in a way that's tangible, in a way that you know is causing you to get better. And there's plenty of ways to do that. There's plenty of free resources as well, so there's no excuse not to do it. That was everything I had to say. I think if you take this advice, maybe it's obvious to some people too, but I felt like it needed to be said. I think that you can take your game to the next level. I think you can crush 2023 for poker. I think this can be your year, and at the least you'll know that you have a good trajectory, you have a process that you can trust. At the end of the day, that's all that matters, because that's the peace of mind, that when you're losing, you know, that's okay. I'm losing now, but I'm winning. Overall, I'm winning with my process, and that's ultimately all that matters. Thanks to everyone that watched this video. Comment below with your routines, your goals, with what you're doing daily, weekly, how you're keeping yourself accountable. Let me know in the comments. Like, subscribe, all the good stuff. Thanks for watching.